Thanks a lot for joining in today. And we are going to solve a very simple problem today. It's called finding the first repeated character in a string. So, for example, if we are given a sample input called as Geeks for Geeks, we need to find out which is the first character which repeats here. So, in this case, as you can see, G repeats twice, E repeats 4 times, K is repeating twice, S is also repeating twice. So while there are multiple characters which are repeating, we know that it is E which is the first character which repeats, and hence our code should return E as the answer. Now let's jump into how we can actually go about solving this problem. Okay. So the first thing which will probably come to our mind is how about for each character, I find out whether it repeats or not. Now let's go with that first thought and let's see how we can code up for the first thought, right? So basically what we are saying is for each character, 0 to say length of s minus 1 and j in range of 0 to length of s. I find out whether this particular character is repeating or not. So basically if s of I is equal to s of j. Now, okay, I have found out that yes, it is repeating, but is that knowledge enough? What else do I need to know? I also need to know that if it is repeating, is it going to be the first character which is repeating? Only then it makes it my potential answer. So for example, if for the first iteration we are checking for G, right? And we find out that yes, it repeats at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It repeats at index number 10. Okay. And in the next iteration, I'll check that for E, yes, it does repeat and it repeats at index number 2. So while both the characters are repeating, which is actually my answer, it is E because it is the character which repeats first. So basically, we are looking for a character whose index of second occurrence is the smallest, right? So which means we need to check that if a character is repeating, at when does it repeat the second time, and we need to basically return a character whose index at which it repeats is minimum. Okay, so that is why we need a minimum index variable, and let's initialize it to a plus infinity value, and I can also have a output char variable, and for now let's just initialize it to s of 0. So for example, if this particular character is repeating, if we have landed upon a character which is repeating, we also need to find out that the index at which it repeats for the first time, is it lesser than the minimum index? Okay, only if it is lesser than the minimum index we can update the minimum index to j, and we can say that the output character can be s of I. There we go. And at the end, all we need to check is if minimum index is equal to, if it is still equal to float of infinity, it means that we didn't do any updates, which means there were no repeating characters in the string, so we can probably return -1. And otherwise, we can return output char, which is the character which repeated for the first time. That's it. That should do it. So let's see if this works or not. Oh, sorry. Here it should be I plus 1. Yeah, now it works, right? So for Geeks, we see that E is the character which is repeating for the first time, and ABC there's no repeated character, and hence we return -1. Now this approach does work, but as you can see, the time complexity which comes with this approach is big of n square, because as you can see, there are 2 for loops. We are iterating through the entire string twice, and hence we do get a big time complexity, and there is definitely window of improving this, right? So how can we do that? Let me just write it down quickly. Right. Okay. So how can we do that? now, as many of you might have guessed, a very good way uh, of optimizing this problem can be using a hash map. Okay. So what we can do is, for every character which we uh, encounter in the string, we can check that if this character is already present in my hash map or not. If it is present, it means that, hey, I have hit a character which is repeating, and as soon as I hit a character which repeats, I can return it. Okay, so that will assure me that I'm repeating the first repeated character as it is. And in case it is not present in my hash map already, I can just add it to my map, right? And I can basically give it any value. It doesn't really matter. What matters is the presence of the character as a key. So here I'm just giving it true. And if I come out of the for loop, it means I basically did not find any repeating character. So I can return -1. So as you can see, we have brought down the time complexity from big O of n square to big O of n because we are traversing the string only once. But yes, we have added a space complexity of big O of n because in the worst case scenario, we can have no repeating characters, right? And in that case, all the characters which are present in the string will become keys in the hash map. So that is why our space complexity in the worst case scenario can range up to big O of n. There we go. This should be a very efficient way to solve the problem. And as you can see, we get the same result. So yes, I hope both the approaches were clear, and it is clear as to why the hash map approach is better than the approach we discussed first. Thank you for watching this video, and in case you have any questions, please do feel to reach out to me. Thank you. Bye.